And the winning run ends at 3. That brother's gonna have to wait a few more weeks to get a haircut, I'll tell you that. Man United snatch a 2-2 draw in the last 10 minutes of that game to avoid defeat away to Nottingham Forest. And I have to say, right, I'm not upset. I'm not angry today. I don't think United were ever going to win 7 or 8 games straight in a row. I know where this team's level is at the moment. And the reality is, if you're winning 7, 8, 9, 10 games in a row, you're probably going to contest for a title. We're not ready for prime time yet. In fact, are we even ready to challenge for the top 4? Debatable, right? So I didn't go into this game expecting a win. And for that reason, I'm not really upset. However, I think the one word to really describe this game is naive from a Man United point of view, right? When you're going up against Sean Dyche for any team in the Premier League, you know what to expect. I think he is one of the most predictable managers in the game. I don't mean that as an insult whatsoever. What you see is what you're going to get. They're going to play compact. They're going to be organized. They're going to put balls into the box. They're going to throw the ball at a big target man, and they're going to make things very aggressive and very, very difficult for you. Anyone in the world who watches football knows that's what you're going to expect. And yet for Man United to approach and enter the game playing the way they did today just makes me feel like I think we were a little underprepared. I know Ruben Amorim came into this game saying, I've watched so many Nottingham Forest games over the last few weeks. I'm ready for this game. It didn't really strike me as that watching this performance. I have to say, Igor Jesus absolutely bullied us today. Absolutely bullied us. Whether it was hold-up play, whether it was beating De Ligt and Euro in the air, whether it was making life difficult for Shaw on the ground, I thought he got the better of our 3 center backs. And it's 3v1. I know it's not really because Euro is going to go out wide to defend against Hudson-Odoi. Shaw is going to go out wide to defend against Ndoye. So it's not like 3 defenders occupying one guy or one guy occupying 3 defenders. But he switches onto a lot of them, and every single one of them, I thought today, really struggle to kind of keep a hold of him. You look at both the goals Forest scored today, it's pretty much coming from, I know the first one is really Ahmad getting dominated in the air by Gibbs-White, which that's the flip side of playing Ahmad out there. He's brilliant in terms of on the ball and being huge in our build-up and combining with Mbemo, but balls in the box, the far post, he's a small guy. He's going to struggle. So that wasn't really a surprise. But yeah, I thought Igor Jesus today, United really, really had a difficult time containing him. And on the basis of play today, I think 2-2 is fair, right? I think some people could even argue United maybe got away with one. But in the first half, despite going up a goal to who else but Casemiro, who seems to be our best aerial threat, no matter what, no matter who's the coach, no matter who's putting them in, he is such a problem off set pieces. He gave us a big lead in that first half, but even entering halftime 1-0, I didn't really think we were that comfortable. I think it was very, very back and forth. It was very, very scrappy, and Forest were beginning to knock on the door. And again, it's not really a surprise as to how they were getting back into the game. Long balls, crosses into the box, giving our back 5 problems. Now, the Casemiro goal, people will look at it and say, shouldn't have been a corner. I agree. On replay, yeah, that shouldn't be a corner, right? The ball legally does not cross the line. I mean, like, the ball is over the line, but the way the rule works is that if you look at it from a bird's eye view, if the ball even intercepts or if it even crosses the line, it's not out of bounds. Therefore, we shouldn't have gotten a corner in that situation. Now, it's a tough call for any referee to make because it's so marginal. But honestly, I'm of the belief, if I'm being absolutely fair here, if a situation is that marginal, I think as a linesman, you're better off not calling it, right? Because if you don't call the corner and it was incorrect, okay, it's not the end of the world, right? They should have gotten a corner, but there's no guarantee that they're going to score. But making that decision and then ending up being wrong, and then when you look back at it and they score off a corner, but they shouldn't have gotten in the first place, that's way more consequential. So I think the right decision for the ref should have been probably to just let play go on, not make the call. You're not confident enough in a 100% correct decision. But that's the name of the game, right? That's the game sometimes. They get things wrong. Going into the second half, though, I did feel like Forest were building and building and building. They didn't have any like clear-cut opportunity, I wouldn't say, but I do think that they started to get a real stranglehold on the game. And in particular, Elliot Anderson. I think Elliot Anderson, from a midfield point of view, ran the show. Now, Bruno and Casemiro, I thought on the ball, were very, very good. Bruno and Casemiro were swinging the ball back and forth. They were creating chances. They were playing players through. They held it quite well. I actually was very impressed from Casemiro and Bruno from an offensive point of view on the ball. Off the ball, I think there's big question marks still. Physically, being able to cover ground, being able to really dominate at midfield, I think there are still more questions and answers here. And up against Elliot Anderson, who this season has been one of the best midfielders in the Premier League and for England as well too at international level, I think Anderson showed them levels today. I do. I wouldn't say they played a bad game, but defensively, they couldn't hang with him, in my opinion. I thought Anderson was probably the man of the match today, at least from a Forest point of view. And hey, maybe someone that in the future United is looking to sign. I know the price tag is absolutely ridiculous, but I think United could really do with a player like that in their midfield who just isn't afraid to always be on the ball, isn't afraid for, as well too from Elliot Anderson's point of view of getting himself about, getting stuck into tackles, creating chances, being a bit of a metronome in the center of the park. I think Anderson today was the best midfielder on the pitch, but that's nothing against Casemiro and Bruno. I think it just kind of speaks to a lack of protection in more open games like this. I think when United are a bit more withdrawn, and also when United have a lot more of the ball, I think they're okay. But in back and forth games like today was, I do think still, from an athletic point of view, you are missing something from that midfield. And it probably speaks volumes as to why Amorim was after Baleba in the summer, and why reports say that United are after Wharton, they're after Elliot Anderson, they're still after Baleba. They want a midfielder in there. What they also should need is a left-sided player. Now, I always read my comments after games, and a lot of people seem to think I have an agenda against Diogo Dallo. First and foremost, I do not have an agenda against anybody. I don't know these people. What I will say, though, is I don't like players who I don't think are that great. Diogo Dallo, for me, is the weak link in this team. Now, I don't blame Amorim for playing him because it's either him or Dorgu, and I don't think Dorgu is great either, right? It's not like Dorgu came on for Dallo today and changed life for us. Now, Diego Leon, I haven't watched enough of him, so I can't say that he's the answer in that situation, but I know for sure Dallo and Dorgu are not. Anytime either of them are playing, that's the weak spot. We don't create anything down that side. Everything comes off the right, and every opportunity that opposition gets against us typically comes down Dallo's side. So I think United massively, as well as midfield, no doubt about it, need to look at strengthening that left-hand side either in January or next summer, because at the moment it does feel like a bit of a black hole whenever the ball goes out to him. And ultimately, pressure told in the second half, right? Within 5 minutes, Forest grabbed 2 goals, and it came in the exact way I was describing. Jesus just being an absolute handful. I think De Ligt and Euro both should have done a lot better. I mean, Euro loses the initial header, but I'm looking also at De Ligt. How on earth does he allow Jesus to practically manhandle him in that situation? De Ligt's a grown man, and by the way, he's been brilliant this season. But I look at both of them, as well as Diallo for failing to get out there quick enough to properly deal with that cross when it comes to that goal. I'm talking about the second one, by the way. The first one, it was a cross to the back post. Ahmad up against Gibbs-White, right? That's the catch-22 of Ahmad. He's brilliant in terms of on the ball, going forward, combining, being an out ball. He's a brilliant player. Defensively, he's a small guy, and he is never, ever, ever beating Gibbs-White to that ball. But how do you stop the cross from initially coming in the first place? I don't think United did a good enough job today of doing that. And once Forest grabbed a 2-1 lead, I don't really feel like United ever got back into the game and really like asserted themselves on it until maybe the last 10 minutes when the Ahmad goal flies in. It's an absolute screamer from Ahmad. And then United started pushing and pushing for a third, in which they almost got it again off a set piece. This game really, to be honest with you, sums up the modern state of the Premier League. Long balls, balls into the box, set pieces, long throws. Look at all 4 goals for both teams. What I just described is encapsulated in every single goal. That's the name of the game today in the Prem. But I think United today, it's not a bad result. Like I said, Forest is a difficult place to go to. They're desperate for a win at the moment, so it was always going to be a tough afternoon. I just feel like we could have prepared ourselves a little better. What I will say as well too is I think Amorim's use of substitutions has to improve massively. At the moment, it almost feels like the only way he knows how to switch a game up is bringing on Dorgu for Diallo or vice versa, or bringing on a center back. Outside of that, I mean, last week he brought on a bunch of substitutes and none of them really worked out, but I really gave them more criticism. But I think today it was pretty clear that the front 3 was not clicking today whatsoever. They were so brilliant against Brighton, but I think today there was a lack of cohesion between all 3 of them. Mbeumo seemed incredibly sluggish to me. I don't think he was at his 100% best today. Cunha was very, very wasteful. Honestly, lost the ball so many times in silly positions. And then Benjamin Sesko, I just don't think ever got into the game. Now, is that all his fault? No. I don't think we really played to his strengths all that much. But it's a tough game for him as well, too, because he's up against Murillo and Milinkovic. And Man United, as we've seen the last few weeks, now want to go direct. They want to play long to the center forward. And against Brighton, I think you can do that. Against Liverpool, I think you can do that as well, too. Against a team like Forest, against Sean Dyche, again, I'm going to use the word again, naive. Naive. That's what they want to do against you. I don't think against a Sean Dyche Nottingham Forest team away from home, you can afford to play the same way you do against Brighton at home. That's just my opinion. And for me, it was very, very clear that the 3 in Mbeumo, Sesko, and Cunha, it just wasn't their afternoon, which is absolutely fine, right? No player plays a 10 out of 10 every single game. I think one of them should have came off. I think Amorim should have made a more attacking substitution. And some will claim Dorgu on for Diallo is an attacking substitution. I tend to disagree today. So I think, honestly, we're a bit fortunate to get away with a draw. Although I wouldn't say we were absolutely awful. I do think we got slightly fortunate because I think Forest over the second half were probably the better team. I think we did well to get back into the game. I like the spirit that they showed, but I think from a substitution point of view, Amram could have done more to change the game up. And I think that's probably my biggest concern of Amram at the moment, right? He's got a plan A. And when the plan A works, it looks great. Do you have a plan B? Do you have a consistent way of changing games? Last season, the only way he was changing games was by bringing on Maguire. This year, is by bringing on a defender and typically a wingback. I don't really feel like Amram, when his plan A kind of gets figured out, has a way of changing the game on the fly mid-game. I've yet to really see that consistently. Can that be something that's changed? Absolutely. But I think today, personally, the decision to keep that 3 on the entire game didn't really work out. And I know United created chances as well too, by the way. It's not like we were on the back foot the entire game. It's not like that whatsoever, right? Bruno hits the post from distance. Casemiro almost gets the rebound. I get that. Ahmad had a nice curler in the first half. But ultimately, I think it was a fair result, in my opinion. I mean, when I'm looking at the bench, guys, right? Mason Mount and Joshua Zirkzee not coming on in a game where we were trailing for almost the entirety of the second half and then looking to grab a winner in the last 10 minutes doesn't really make much sense to me. It doesn't. And again, it's not like we were just knocking on the door against Forest. We got a wonder goal out of Ahmad, and then all of a sudden it's a game. So I think Amram could have done a little more to try and change the game from the bench. I do. But another thing that we really have to take into account here is United's depth isn't great. So I'm saying I would have liked to see Zirkzee and Mount come on, but also, let's call it what it is. These two are not absolutely world-class players. They're good players. They're decent players. But I think that's a problem for United right now at the moment. Our depth isn't great. And when you're playing one game a week, that doesn't really matter. You can afford to continue playing the same 11 week in, week out. But I think a big question mark for United is A, in games like this, who do you have off the bench to call on? Not much. But B, when these two go off to AFCON in December, what do Man United do? What do we do? Who plays on the right? Is it Diallo on the right, Dorgu on the left? That's a big downgrade. Is it Mount in the 10 instead of Mbemo? For me, that's a pretty big downgrade. Or maybe it's Bruno in the 10, Kobe or Ugarte in midfield. It doesn't really bode well for us in that busy Christmas period where we're going to be rotating a lot for that anyways, but then we're missing players going off to AFCON. That's a worry for United at the moment. But I go back to my first point here, guys, right? It's a process for United at the moment. It's not an expectation that every game has to be a win. I'm not at that point anyways. I know at one point today, we were second in the league. And I know when you look at the early period in the season, right? There's not much separating second. Wow, Spurs are second right now. That's crazy. Second and all the way down to 11th. There's 3 points between those two positions. So it's very easy to get excited when you look at the table mid-game and see United in second place if they win the game. I'm not really at that point. I don't believe in the side's ability to maybe throw a title challenge together or honestly even make Champions League. I'm a little skeptical about that as well too. For me, it's really just about being consistent, not going on another period where you can't win back-to-back games for an entire year. I'm just trying to avoid that. So for me, this is not disaster, but it's just a little naive in my opinion. However, let me know down in the comment section below, where do you think this game kind of went away from United? What do you think Amram should have done better? Who was your man of the match for United? I would say from a United point of view, I think Shaw was good in the first half. I think Shaw in the second half was completely different. And I don't like how Shaw finds himself in these attacking positions as often as he does and never crosses the ball. That's really an irk for me. I would probably say Casemiro. Obviously took his goal really, really well, but I think overall on the ball was pretty flawless. I think he's playing some nice diagonals, some nice floated passes into the wingback's path. He's really a player for me that since Ten Hag left and Amram came in, has gone leaps and bounds and almost returned to the form that we all loved in his first year. I think he's much more protected in the system. And we know, guys, I mean, the aerial threat of set pieces from this guy is ridiculous. I don't think anyone could have predicted when we signed him from Real Madrid 3 years ago that he would score as many goals as he has for us. If he played for Arsenal, I actually reckon he'd probably grab 10 goals a season. Like, okay, maybe not 10 goals a season. All comps, maybe? Hey, he might actually do it. He is such a problem in the air. For a guy, by the way, who it's not like we're looking at Maguire here. We're not looking at a guy who's 6'5". He's what, 6 foot? He's a problem in the air. So congratulations to Casemiro. I think he played a pretty good game. He's my man of the match from United point of view. But this guy, hey, keep an eye out for him. I don't think he's worth 100 million like Forest will probably demand, but he is 100% capable, in my opinion, of making the next jump up. Whether that's to a United, to a Liverpool, to a Spurs, to a Chelsea. I think he can play for most of the big teams in the country. So congratulations to him as well too. 2-2 the final score. Let me know down in the comment section below what your thoughts were on the game. Like, share, subscribe. We're almost at, we might be at 90K at the end of this video. So shout out to you guys. We're still going for 100K. And I'll see you guys for the Chelsea review right after this game. Peace.